Hey everyone, welcome to the Low-sal-life. I'm Sarah. Today we are going to be talking about some dental stuff. Last year I was sick for probably about 5 or 6 months at the beginning of the year, and that was due to a chronic sinus infection that I had. That was due to some dental problems. First of all, I want to say that my teeth have been very, very healthy, especially in the last 4 years. And even more so, my mouth has been much healthier since going low-sal. I don't have any like bleeding gums or which I did have before. I used to get cavities a lot more often. So overall, my new lifestyle, being low-sal, has contributed to a healthier mouth. I actually haven't gotten a cavity in over 4 years, and that the whole time, for at least the last 3 years, I've been using that chocolate Tanner's Tasty Paste with fluoride. I know fluoride's controversial, but I've decided because of having cavities in the past that I would continue to use fluoride toothpaste, and so far it's working out okay for me. Oh, my nose is so itchy. It's like tree and grass season. I had 2 cavities that needed to be replaced in 2020, February 2020, and it's on my number 2 and number 4 tooth. And these were pre-existing cavities that I had the fillings replaced by a dentist. Within like 2 or 3 days of having those fillings redone, I started having immediate pain on both teeth and sensitivity. And I got checked out right away, and there were no problems with that tooth. He said that I probably had dentinitis, something to do with the dentin, where there's like kind of like this fluid and it gets inflamed and it will go down over time. Well, I went back in September, about 6 months later, and he ended up redoing the back filling on my very back tooth, and that helped relieve some of the sensitivity, but it still didn't resolve it. He said that the roots looked good and healthy, no problems, no problems, no problems. Okay, so fast forward until, I waited I got a new dentist. I got everything checked out, and they were like, you're fine. So I went and saw my new dentist, December 2022 was a new dentist for me, and I told him that I had some pain on the side of my mouth still, and I just wanted to get it checked out. So they had there's like these, I don't know if they're CAT scans or MRI, they're like these portable 3D image x-rays that they can do. And so they did that, and they came back to me with their mouth completely dropped, asking me how I was even standing because I had such a bad chronic sinus infection and I didn't know. So at that point, we got booked for a root canal in 2 or 3 weeks. They offered me antibiotics. I said, no, I'll decline. I'm not really in that bad of shape. Like, it's just normal status for like the last 2.5 years, right? Why panic now? So within the 2 weeks, I got really, really sick. And so I figured it was like, oh my gosh, all of these things started making sense, that it was related to an infection rather than just me feeling bad from my normal chronic health issues. So I went in like mid-January, early January, and I got my first root canal on this back tooth number 2. And I had started an antibiotic. I called and got an antibiotic started over the phone. And so I was like on day 4 or 5 when I went in and got this tooth work done. Now this is where things get weird, and why I'm telling you about this, because as much as you love juicy, gross stories about people's health and dental trauma, I actually started having a reaction that day when I was at the clinic. But it didn't make sense to me. So what ended up happening was they did the root canal, and they put on a temporary cap on my tooth. And the next couple of days, which I figured they just like stirred up the infection, right? And I was healing, and I had a gash, in my mouth and stuff like that. While I was healing, I actually started having a reaction which I thought was a reaction to the antibiotic. Well, it turns out it wasn't a reaction to the antibiotic. Well, it could have been, but it probably wasn't. What I realized when I went back about a month or so later, so I finished up the antibiotic, the root canal healed, and my pain never went away. So I went back like 4 to 6 weeks later or something like that, and I was like, I'm still having pain. So they scheduled me for another root canal with the same guy in the same clinic and everything. And basically he said, you know what, it's possible by looking at the 3D image that maybe we missed a little root, which happens. Excuse me, and I should say nerves. It's not actually roots. So he said that maybe they missed something, and he kind of sees something, but he wouldn't know unless he got in there. So he started drilling in there. This is my second root canal on the same tooth, and they finished up early, and they realized that that they couldn't really see anything. They had no answers for me. So they finished it up. They sent me to another endodontist in town, which I realized that my first doctor was just a dentist, which is fine. Dentists can do root canals. But if you have more complicated health issues, you may want to actually go see an endodontist the first time. So they signed me up for just a root canal right away, and I said, no, let's stop, and I want a doctor's appointment before, like an actual appointment and assessment beforehand, because I don't want them to just drill into my mouth a third time without, thinking about everything. So I made that appointment for the following week with the endodontist, and he said that I probably just need to heal. My sinus infection was starting to clear, and I just needed to give time to heal. I should come back in a month, especially if things started improving. So I felt hopeful about that. But let's back up to the second appointment. So during that time, the gal was, now remember, my sinus infection's clearing, right? So I'm smelling better. So the gal's putting my temporary cap back on so that I can eat, during the week. And she slipped. When she slipped, she ended up getting some of the adhesive and stuff on my mouth, and it smelled super, super minty. Well, I immediately panicked. And what actually ended up happening was they were using an adhesive, a temporary adhesive for that cap to put the cap on. So I was like, oh my gosh, that smells minty. It probably has salicylates in it. I'm allergic to salicylates. I told you this. This is why we went through all the stuff, right? So I was really upset. They made me feel like it was in my head and that this was the same stuff that I had the last time, and I didn't react the last time. But I said, but wait, I got sick the day I had the root canal, and I thought it was just the antibiotics. But now it makes more sense because I've had that antibiotic before. It makes more sense that I was reacting to the adhesives you used for my root canal. So they had already finished it by the time I was talking and advocating for myself. They were like, well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's sealed in. You won't be exposed. You should be okay. All right. Not all right. The cap ended up breaking like a month later, and I was exposed to all the adhesive it broke on Friday night, of course. And so I didn't get in until Monday morning at like 10 in the morning. So literally between Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, I had 3 days worth of migraines, which I blame on the adhesive that they used in my mouth that was now exposed and making me sick. So by that time, I'd seen my dentist but the times before I saw this other dentist who was doing the root canal, and then the endodontist. So I'm back to my normal dentist who knows me. So, he's kind of a new dentist, but he's taking me very seriously. I appreciate him. So I was like, look, I've got adhesive in my mouth that shouldn't be there. I'm freaking out about that, and I don't appreciate it. And I was so upset. I said, and I had looked at the adhesive, and I learned that it can be used as a cavity liner. I'll show it to you in a moment. So he ended up listening to me, and they ended up using a permanent adhesive for my cap. And I was like, are they going to be mad about that when I go in for the work later? He was like, no, it's fine, because basically that cap's like pretty much disposable. So they'll just like rip the cap off and then grind off the permanent adhesive. So I got settled in with that. So that was good. And I continued to have pain. I didn't really get better, and I got busy. So that was in like March or April. And I finally went back and got a third root canal with a different endodontist, not the one that told me to wait a month and that I just needed time to heal. But I went and found a different endodontist, and he took me seriously, and he did an excellent job. I had before and after pictures. Basically, there was just like a little tip at the bottom of my root that got missed, and then I actually have I should say nerve. My nerve ended up starting off as one, and then it split into two, and then it went back to one. So that's the reason why it was missed. Simple, happens, like whatever. No fault to them, but my mouth was quite traumatized. But I wanted to talk about a couple of lessons that I learned during that time. So the first thing I did that day that I accused that gal of using something minty in my mouth, I said, hey, can you please let me know what was used so I can take a picture of it and make sure, number one, it's not used again, and then two, that I can verify if there are salicylates in it or not. I got really close, still not 100% sure, but I feel 99.5% sure. And my personal dentist validated me later. And the endodontist that did my final root canal also verified with me the kind of adhesive he used. So the one that they used was this, it's called Kerr Base and Catalyst, and it's a calcium hydroxide, and it's no fault to the dental clinic. And this is the reason why I'm letting you guys know, so that you know, and eventually I'll put together like a checklist for dental stuff for us. So these tubes outside of their box only say calcium hydroxide. It doesn't say what the catalyst is. And so what it needs, though, is that it needs some kind of acid for it. And this paper, is that the right paper? Yeah. This paper here, which is an open sourced literature I'll link, they actually explain that a lot of products, including Kerr, actually uses salicylic acid as the catalyst. That's a danger for us. Not only that, for using as an adhesive, but this product is also used as a cavity lining. So we've been pretty much taught that going in and getting a cavity is a really low risk for low-sal people, but that is not true, because if the filling is deep enough, they may use a dental lining like this Kerr product to actually line the bottom of your filling, and before they put in all the resin and everything. So I mention this because just talk with your doctor before having any cavities or anything like root canals or anything like that. The reason salicylic acid is a great product to use in this is that it also has antimicrobial properties. So what they're doing is trying to prevent infection from coming from your body into the tooth, and using salicylic acid in there actually helps a lot. One thing that I talked to my dentist about, I said, I'm not so worried about the root canal, because basically that tooth becomes dead, kind of. But if you're getting a dental lining in a cavity, that lining is right up against tissue. So make sure that you're not putting an allergen that you react to where you already have a potential place for infection, that you're not putting something that is touching living tissue next, on you. So that was lesson number one that I learned. Calcium hydroxide linings may use salicylates, in the ingredients and it will not be listed on there. I also contacted the company twice and they never responded back to me. So thank you, Care. Okay, so that was one that I ended up using. There was another one that I came across with Care, and that one is called Cavitec, and it is eugenol and zinc oxide. And that one I would also say is probably a problem because that eugenol is derived from, is like the same active ingredient as like eucalyptus and it's a plant-derived ingredient. So another one to be worried about. I'll show you a picture of the one that my endodontist used the last time I saw a dentist about this. And it just says paste A and B, and he swore up and down that it didn't have any salicylic acid on it. He seemed familiar with the concept, not like completely surprised and was like, oh no, you know the response. He was like, oh no, it doesn't use salicylic acid for that. I haven't really had any problems with it. I will say that my root canal is not 100% fixed. It's like at 98%. So I can put pressure on it and eat and it's fine, but it's not returned back to painless, unfortunately. Back to the cur lining, one thing that I ended up doing after talking to my dentist about it was that I had him redo this tooth here, this filling. Remember how I said it was number 2 was the one with the root canal, 3 root canals, and number 4 had a redo on the filling. I ended up having him redo that filling without any dental linings. That one also still hurts, but there's no infection in it and there's no need to have a root canal. So I'll just live with a little tiny bit of pain. It's not too bad. I can eat on this side of my mouth now. Another thing that I went through with my doctors was about gutta percha. And this is a concern for a lot of low-sal folks, is about using a plant-based item in your root canal. Now, I ended up having gutta percha. They're like basically little toothpicks. They're kind of like a latex, and they get shoved in there to add some support to your tooth. And my doctor was kind enough to give me a couple extra spares of gutta percha. If I go and see a dental allergist, I can take that and we can do like a contact reaction to see if I react to it. I did come across, and my endodontist did mention that the gutta percha is so processed that a lot of the plant chemicals are taken out of it. And I think that that's pretty amazing. If you have a latex allergy, my dentist said that they have latex-free gutta percha now. So I think that when I was kind of going through everything, I felt like the gutta percha was probably the least of my concerns. Could also be a source of salicylates. I'm not going to worry about it. I don't react to like cork or latex or a lot of those plants. So we're just going to leave it. Maybe someday I'll post another video saying, guess what? I'm allergic to gutta percha. Anyway, if you're interested in more reading, this article was really interesting. It had a lot about plants related to gutta percha and different options available. And ultimately, all the other options seem pretty terrible. Again, what they're trying to do is have something that is both providing some kind of stability, but also preventing infection from coming back up. And so having something that has a little bit of that natural oil in it can actually help prevent future infection. I do know one person, they're only 3 or 4 years into their root canal, but they ended up having nothing put in there. So that is a risk that you could take. There's been at least one dentist who has done that, and one person who hasn't had a failed root canal, but we're only a few years in. So I just want to say that that's an option. Another thing that made me panic, but I want to let you know so that you guys can be at ease, that is endo ice. Now, anything that's cold and minty, I kind of immediately like tense up. I wish I didn't, because maybe like it's my stress response that's making me sick. But I didn't react to this, but I wanted to let you know I looked it up. So when they go through and test all your teeth for sensitivity, they will take like a cotton swab and they'll spray it. So they'll be like, you know, and then they'll take that cotton swab and touch your teeth. So, and they want to see, you know, if you have cold sensitivity and also if the pain goes away. If the pain goes away, it means that your tooth is still healthy. So this endo ice is nothing to be concerned about. It was a carbon and fluoride compound. It doesn't have a phenol on it or anything like that. So it's not remotely close to salicylates. It's cold, like mint. It might even smell a little tiny bit minty, but it is nothing related to it. I did not have a reaction to it, so I just want you to know, endo ice cleared. The last thing I want to talk about is my dentist was so good. I brought my little lidocaine, and this is unflavored lidocaine that I got at a compounding pharmacy. So you can watch, I have a different video about like dental stuff and preparing for the dentist. So I brought my lidocaine, I brought my flavor-free toothpaste, my flavor-free dental floss, everything that I needed. I brought extra Benadryl. I let him know that I was super sensitive to a lot of things. Yeah, okay, yeah, we don't use any mint stuff here. So all of a sudden they're putting a dental dam on me and it smells so minty. And I got brushed off on this. I am not very happy about it, but they swore up and down that it was not mint scented. And I tell you it was mint scented because I'm not exposed to this on a regular basis and it's a dangerous smell for me. So I wasn't happy about it, but I tried. I'm like, it's not going inside of my body. It's just touching my body. My body's not super sensitive. I mentioned it later to him, the little check-in. I was like, this is so minty and I'm not feeling very good with this. But you have to remember from the dentist's perspective that they're expecting you, if you're really allergic to it, you're going to swell up in this area where you're exposed to it. And that's not how my body works. For contact stuff, it goes into my body and then it goes into my bloodstream, and then it starts affecting different systems, right? My skin's not very sensitive. So he checked to make sure I wasn't like red and swollen and swelling up. And he was like, you're not swelling up or anything. Like, you're not getting rashy. Like, duh, because there's no mint in there. And it's like, well, no, I don't think so. So later I ended up getting hives. I took several Benadryl that day. Oh my gosh, it's getting so hot. So hot in here. I ended up getting hives. I took Benadryl, whatever. Take Benadryl, go to bed, right? Call it a day. Later, I did look, and I cannot find a single green dental dam that is not mint flavored, mint scented. So I just wanted to let you guys know that if you're starting with the new dentist, double check that they have dental dams that are not green or not mint scented. And I did not like getting brushed off, but you know what? He fixed my tooth, so we'll call it even. Couple more things that have come across my mind since doing all of that dental stuff. This is not medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm not your doctor. I do have a biology degree. I do live with this condition. So I will tell you though, some of the most important things that I've come across for my dental health, regardless of what I eat. Vitamin C is probably one of the most important vitamins that I take. I've just been taking ascorbic acid, just the cheapest stuff you can get at like your Rite Aid or drugstore. Nothing with rose hips or anything else like that. Nothing fancy. So I'm getting checked out for MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome, and I think that really is the main driver behind salicylate sensitivity. And we can talk about that more later. But when I was going through the MCAS checklists before meeting with my new immunologist, I noticed that about a third of MCAS patients also have EDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I just breezed right past that because I don't have stretchy skin. but it turns out that I am hypermobile. So I'm also working through that. So if you have dental problems and you're salicylate sensitive and you're hypermobile, you may want to get checked out for EDS as well as MCAS. And there's a couple of extra things that are complicated related to dental health with both MCAS and EDS. So just running this past you guys. First of all, mast cells, they can be localized anywhere in your body. They can be really upset, but they're in your connective tissue for the most part. And you can have an allergic reaction, I'll say allergic, to any kind of stimulus. If you have mast cell activation syndrome, you can literally have a reaction to vibration or pressure or temperature changes. It's not just chemicals or proteins. It can be a lot of different things. So keep that in mind when you're trying to figure out what your sensitivities are. It could literally be other things. Exercise, I've talked about. So that's mast cell stuff. So with the EDS and hypermobility, it actually affects your dental. There's a lot of dental complications with it. I wrote down a few things. It can result in weak and thin enamel, gum issues, and poor tooth stability. Now, I mentioned this because I know a lot of you guys are on carnivore diet. I go in and out carnivore, and the reason why I mentioned vitamin C is because I've come across videos where people are asking about tooth pain related to carnivore. I do think it's something. I've had tooth pain a few weeks into carnivore diet, and I've also had loose teeth. Like, I am a grown-up with a healthy mouth and healthy teeth, but every once in a while I'll get like a loose feeling tooth, and that could be a connective tissue issue. So make sure, so one of the things about EDS is that vitamin C is like one of the most important compounds that you can take. And if you are intentionally reducing your diet because of salicylates, which is fruits, veg, right? Those are high in vitamin C. And then you're also increasing it with meat, which meat has some vitamin C. But I think for people like us with mast cell and EDS and hypermobility, all these other issues, you probably want to bump up on your C. Also, vitamin C has some stabilization, mast cell stabilization, and histamine compounds. I need to look into that more because I don't know if it's a mast cell stabilizer or if it's antihistamine. And knowing the difference between those are important. Might have the same effect. Still important though. So, oh yeah, and one more thing with the EDS and connective tissue issues is that local anesthetic may not work very well for you. So lidocaine works for me really well. I respond to it. However, I need a lot, and it wears off fast. And I'm also a fast metabolizer. Like, I'm one of those people that can have caffeine and it's gone within 2 hours, maybe 3. Let your dentist know, because they may want to keep some stuff nearby or handy, or let them know that that could be a complication that you may experience. For me, I've had to have so much, either twice as much injection, or basically the anesthetic wears off really quickly. I had my toenail removed last September, and my doctor told me that it should be numb for at least 4 hours. So we're like, great, we'll go do some errands. I'll sit in the car, Randy can go run in. And all the anesthetic wore off before I was out of his office. So anyway, some complications. So keep that in mind. Get checked out for MCAS or EDS if you are have some of those other, we'll call them comorbidities. All right, if you have other dental things, I've got a compounding pharmacy stuff about how I got this lidocaine and why. And then I also have another video on toothpaste and different dental products. All right, that's it for today. Take care. Bye.